and also Arunima with us. Pallavi, I just want to ask you, last evening, was there any hint about this deal happening very, very soon, off the camera, on the sidelines, with the finance minister?
Anand, you know how this government works. They don't, ek patta bhi hilne nahi dete. That's the way it goes. But you know, all along, where there's been a finance minister, and we were chatting with her before we went for that interview which Rahul Joshi did with her, she was very, very confident because there was an area of concern that why is it that the markets are falling, the prices of gold and silver are very high. She said, just wait a while, wait to see what happens. So there was an air of optimism, I would say, among the key financial ministers, whether it's Piyush Goyal, whether it was Hardeep Singh Puri, whether it was Nirmala Sitharaman, all of them seem to be obviously knowing something. In fact, just before that interview we had with Nirmala Sitharaman, she was logged in with a long meeting with the Prime Minister. So I guess all of these nitty-gritty, its implications on the markets, its implications on the budget's implementation, all of that must have been discussed.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it, to know something is happening and then act as if nothing is happening. And to put a straight face there, you really have to be able to hold yourself and be able to hold these things in your close to your chest and act as if nothing's happening. The Prime Minister did that with, I wonder why this happens with CNN News 18. Rising Bharat, I remember 2019, when the Prime Minister addressed the gathering, and then in the night you had the Balakot strikes and there was no inkling that this is going to happen. Then again, it is CNN News 18 which asked President Trump, he was at least a little more forthcoming at Davos, is the deal happening? And he says it's going to happen. And then last evening, the finance minister clearly must have been aware, but she kept things close to her chest. And soon after her interview played out, comes this big announcement, both from President Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that the Indo-US trade deal is happening. Arunima, quick word from you. Have you been in touch in terms of some of the industry guys, the policy, and also within the defense ministry, within various sectors, the FIEO, the trade bodies who had been desperately waiting for this deal to come through so that the pressures on them ease off a little?
Yes, there is a sense of optimism, and like I was telling you, people in the fishery sector, for example, they were really taking the brunt once the tariff had gone up. And Nara Lokesh tweeted out as well. He posted on social media on behalf of all those, because Andhra has a huge coastal population. There are people in Kerala, again a pole-bound state there, people in Odisha, people in West Bengal, all these which have a coast, Maharashtra, Goa, they will be looking at exemptions from tariff which had gone up. So that sector definitely is very, very upbeat. But just to tell you, since Parliament is about to reconvene in just a minute, in just about a bit from now, Jairam Ramesh has actually demanded that the details of the trade deal, both the one with the European Union and the one with United States, be put out, Parliament be taken into confidence. So it will be quite interesting to note at 11 a.m. when Lok Sabha and then Rajya Sabha reconvenes, even though we saw what happened when Rahul Gandhi was speaking on motion of thanks yesterday. But today it will be quite interesting to note whether there is an extra spring in the steps of the Treasury benches. The smiles that Payal has brought for us from the Parliamentary Party meeting clearly could be reflected in the House as well.
Right. Thank you for that, Arunima and Pallavi. Just going to bring it back into the studio. Viewers, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra is joining us. We'll take you through the key takeaways and also some of the criticism that's already coming in from the opposition. Even as I walk across to take you through the key takeaways, viewers, one must understand Dr. Shama Mohammed has just tweeted saying that the US Agriculture Secretary says that the new US-India deal will export more American farm products to the Indian markets. Prime Minister Narendra Modi must tell us what compromises he has made in the agriculture sector that are going to hurt our farmers for sure. Also, Indian products will face 18% tariffs while US products will face 0% tariffs. So along with conditions to buy US products worth $500 billion, this is not a fair deal. That's what the Congress is already now asking, and we just heard Arunima saying that Dr. Jairam Ramesh has also taken to Twitter to say that, or to X to say that Parliament needs to be brought to, made fully aware of what are the contours of this trade deal. So quickly taking the takeaways, and we'll go across to Shireen Bhan, who's also joining us. First up, faster access for US Indian imports. Indian imports into the US markets, and also exports gains for Indian manufacturers and services. Energy security via diversified oil and gas sources, energy diversification that reduces geopolitical risk. 5, secures breathing room for domestic reform. 6, long-term stability in the India and US trade relations. Some of these big takeaways that we're putting out. Shireen Bhan with us this morning. Shireen, morning. Good morning. Thank you for your time. First up, the opposition is asking, what compromises have you made? This deal cannot have come till the time you've opened up a few sectors that largely remain protected, mainly agriculture, automobiles, and some others. How is it going to go from $83 billion at its peak to about $500 billion without India being compromised? That's the opposition's position. Your assessment?
Well, the opposition is basing its comments on what President Trump himself has tweeted. Now, if you go back to the original tweet, the first tweet put out by President Trump on Truth Social, where he talked about the deal having been done. And again, for the benefit of our viewers, Anand, let me explain what has been done. This is not the bilateral trade agreement that everyone was hoping for. This is an early harvest deal. The Commerce Secretary, in his conversation with me last night at our CNBC TV 18 budget verdict, explained that there are 2 frameworks that are working in parallel. This framework that has been done is the framework that addresses the concerns that the U.S. had on the reciprocal tariff. So this is not the large BTA that was being spoken of. That's one. Now, number 2, President Trump, in his post on Truth Social, says that India has agreed to buy more from the U.S., whether it is energy, including Venezuelan oil. He also says that India has given a commitment that it will bring down its Russian crude imports to 0. It further goes on to say that India has also said that they will buy agricultural products as well. Now, what will all of this entail? The fine print is still awaited. Remember, in its response, the Prime Minister, in his tweet, has only acknowledged the fact that there is a deal to bring down the tariffs from 50% to 18%, thanking President Trump and so on and so forth. But the Indian side has not responded to any of the specific items that President Trump has mentioned. Neither has it responded to the 0 tariff claim that President Trump has made. But our understanding is, and this is based on conversations that we've been having with people who have been observers of the deal and observers of the negotiations, that India had offered 0 tariffs on some product lines. Now, what those are, we will have to wait to see. And officials also suggesting that yes, it does include some agricultural products. Now, will it be beyond the sort of pecan nuts and walnuts and so on and so forth? We will have to wait to see. But the fine print is awaited. India has not responded to the specific claims that President Trump made in his Truth Social post.
In fact, Shireen, President Trump in his tweet or in his post does mention reciprocal tariffs at 18%. And then he says that in certain sectors where India had more than 100% tariffs, those sectors are going to come down to 0. So he doesn't say across the board it's 0 tariff on his post, what I'm reading right now. But closer home, the rupee seems to have rallied positively. There is a clear uptake, 90.40 compared to 92 on Friday. Markets are really buoyant. How significant is this in terms of sentiment? And what do you think this deal is going to do in terms of reviving certain sectors or bringing in fund flows?
Well, it is a clear positive in terms of sentiment, changes the mood completely, because remember, this has been an issue that has been an overhang for the last 9+ months on our markets. It has weighed on investor sentiment. It has made investors jittery about what the final tariff arrangement will be with India. So it certainly is a sentiment positive. The markets are reacting, as you've seen, skyrocketing on opening bell. And there's been a big move in the rupee as well, because a lot of the pressure on the rupee was also on account of the fact that there was a big question mark on this trade deal going through. So both the rupee markets as well as the stock markets are rejoicing at this point in time. We have seen the rupee coming off its record lows as well. So that is a given. The question now is, what does this mean in terms of fund flows? It certainly does change the landscape. I mean, if you're talking about a 50% tariff going to 18%, especially from a manufacturing competitiveness point of view, it brings us back into the competitive territory, especially when we compare ourselves to our peer group. And with 18%, we're lower than some of our, manufacturing peers. So that does bode well for Indian manufacturing. And on the other side, shrimp, textiles, gems and jewelry, labor-intensive sectors that have been hit with the tariff will breathe a sigh of relief, because this brings back, a level playing field for many of these sectors, and that is what you're witnessing again, in the stock market today. A lot of those sectors in focus.
Well, Dr. Anish Shah, Group CEO and Managing Director, Mahindra Group, has said that the Mahindra Group welcomes Indo-US trade deal, which marks a significant step forward, Shireen, I'm just reading this out, in strengthening bilateral trade and investment ties. The immediate reduction in reciprocal tariffs on Indian exports from 50 to 18%, along with commitment to progressively lower tariff and non-tariff barriers, will boost growth momentum and improve the predictability businesses need to invest with confidence. With the Indian economy on a strong growth trajectory, this deal adds meaningful momentum to India's growth ambitions. Now, the Mahindra Group is there in software, but it's also there in automobiles. The EU deal and the Indo-US deal will open up this sector. So certainly there will be a rise in competitiveness also in the domestic markets, which had largely been so far protected from external forces via huge import duties, etc. So how do you see that? Will that balance it out, or do you think these markets or these sectors are now ready for global competition or to thrive in perhaps a global arena?
Anand, they have no choice but to be ready. As the chief economic advisor said, you cannot offer protection in perpetuity. And as India signs these free trade agreements with whether it's the UK or the EU, there has to be a tariff reduction across the board on some of these key sectors that have otherwise been protected. So Indian industry has no choice but to become more competitive. Indian industry has no choice but to look at global trade and global markets. Again, go back to the economic survey. That is the unequivocal message there, that we're still under 2% of global trade. We need to do more. We need to do better. We need to enhance our export competitiveness. And yesterday, the Commerce Secretary also suggesting very clearly that, look, this is the new reality. This is the new world order, and this is the playing field that we have. So Indian industry will have to play by the rules of the game as they currently exist. They cannot continue to live in an alternate reality. So that, I think, is the challenge for Indian industry to take up. But it's also going to be important to highlight for our viewers, because these cuts have not come into effect yet. Right. So there will, of course, be executive orders that President Trump will need to sign. Whether that happens today or over the next few days, one will have to wait to see. So the procedural issues, the technicalities to operationalize the announcement has to happen. So it's not as if we've already gone to 18% as of this morning.
Right.
So that the procedural stuff, the executive orders still have to be signed.
वह जहाँ 9 महीने रुके हैं वहाँ हफ्ता भर और रुक जाएंगे. That will be the sentiment. Shireen, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure speaking with you.